We're getting word right now that Rocksteady Studios is going through yet another round of layoffs over at the company as a result of the failure that was Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. Now, this isn't the first time they've laid off people as a result of this game losing so much money. Back in the fall, Forbes reported that they lost around $200 million for the company and their parent company, Warner Brothers, and as a result, 18 QA workers out of a team of 33 lost their job. Now, this isn't saying these are the only people who lost their job at the company. This is just from this particular team, which seemed to take the brunt of all the firings that they had at the company. But right now it's looking like not only is it hitting multiple departments again, but also the QA department is also suffering even more losses. Rocksteady has been hit with another round of layoffs affecting multiple departments. These layoffs rolled out at the end of 2024 and come just before the final update for Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League later this month. And that's also another important takeaway from all this, because you would think that they would be expecting more people to jump on after they release an update, because that's usually how things work if it's a game people are interested in. But that's not the case when it comes to Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. I have the Steam concurrent player count chart pulled up right now for since the game was released. And when the game was released, it peaked at just over 13,000 concurrent players. So not really good for a game of this magnitude. And then it steeply dropped off. But you see this spike right here, and this coincides with the release of the Joker for the game. So their first big update for it. And it spiked and then it dropped off again. So not enough to retain players following that. And then it kind of kept along this line for a while until back in November when they saw a spike again. And this coincides with them putting the game on sale on Steam, where it was less than $3 for that. And that's retained players a little bit better, but even then it's still kind of dropping off right now. So this isn't a long-term strategy. We're probably going to see a little bit of a bump after the next big update for it. But following that, I think we're going to see another drop off, and that's pretty much the end of the game right there. These layoffs have been reported by Eurogamer, who has spoken with some of the developers affected. It comes after the studio suffered its first round of post-Suicide Squad layoffs in September of last year, cutting the QA department in half. Today's layoffs also affect QA, seeing the team shrink even further. Warner Brothers is yet to acknowledge both these layoffs and the ones that were reported back in September. However, it has reported at the time that the cuts were made due to the poor commercial performance of Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. And I think that's probably a reasonable conclusion for all this. You release a major game like this, it costs hundreds of millions of dollars to produce. It performs poorly, and as a result, people lose their jobs. I mean, that's just the way the industry should work. If you don't do a good job, then you don't get to keep your job. As per the latest reports, these layoffs are affecting programming, the art team, and once again, QA. Eurogamer says that half a dozen workers have been affected this time. Now, that doesn't necessarily seem like a whole lot of people, half a dozen, but when you take into account the amount of people that they started with, how many they laid off last fall from all the departments, and then more here, I'm thinking what they were doing is just really trying to slash costs. So what you do when you're trying to slash costs, you find the big expenses that you can get rid of, and then afterwards you start nickel and diming it. So I think we saw the first round of layoffs basically getting rid of the big issues at the company. So getting rid of a lot of people, and now they're kind of going through it more with a scalpel and trying to see like, okay, who can we cut from what department here and there? I think we're going to see more of this in the future too over at Rocksteady, where they're going to be, but I mean, it's going to be less newsworthy when you have 1 and 2 people fire like every week, every 2 weeks or something like that, as opposed to when you see rounds of layoffs that we're seeing right now. Unfortunately, in an industry where even successful game launches can lead to job cuts, that's not real. I mean, that's kind of true, but also not. And here's why. I'll just kind of explain how things go at these studios. A lot of major studios will bring on outside contractors to help supplement their current workforce in the lead up to the launch of a big game. After the game is launched, they don't need all those extra people working on the company, or extra contractors working for them, so they let them go. Now, you can say that the game launch was successful and people still got fired, but that's not really how it works out. It's basically contractors come in, work for a period of time, and then once their job is done, they leave. I mean, you could say that's people losing their job following the successful launch or not, but it's not really the case, or at least I don't view it as the same way as like, oh, your game launch did great. Now let's fire a bunch of people because we're losing money. I mean, that's not really what's going on. I mean, that's kind of what's going on with Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, minus them actually having a successful launch. It's been clear for some time that Suicide Squad is suffering as a live service, as the game frequently has low concurrent player figures on Steam, and I already showed you the chart for all that. Even after updates, these updates are coming to an end soon, with the final one rolling out this month. It's possible that this was sooner than planned, as fans believe that there were supposed to be 4 more playable characters added to the game over its lifetime. Now, I don't know if that was ever confirmed, but I think there was a lot of speculation actually that there was going to be more players added to it, but no, that's not the case. Since it wasn't confirmed, though, we don't know if that was actually true. I think it is reasonable to assume that if this game was just going crazy and everyone was playing it, then there would be more updates to it. But I guess Rocksteady was kind of taking a more cautious approach. Now, what does this mean for Rocksteady and for the industry as a whole with this? Because I do think ultimately this is good news, but for various reasons. And here's why. When this game came about, what really kicked off from this was Sweet Baby Inc. Detected, because it was found out that Sweet Baby Inc. was a consultant on this game, and that's what started this whole Steam group right here. Now, just quickly, for people who don't know, Sweet Baby Inc. is an outside consulting company. Their job is to consult on games and inform them on how to insert more DEI and other stuff like that into the game. Sweet Baby Inc. Detected got wind of this, so it created this Steam group, basically calling out games that are working with Sweet Baby Inc. And it's since evolved to calling out games that are working on anything like this, or who are pushing DEI over quality games. Not necessarily 100%, because there's some games on here that don't really necessarily fit that, but I think it is fair to say if a game is in a studio is working with a company like Sweet Baby Inc., to let the audience know, and they can decide whether they want to actually play that game or not. So we got this one right here, involved with Sweet Baby Inc., involved with Baby Ghost, involved with Sweet Baby Inc., obvious DEI infested, full review in the near future, so for Dragon Age Veilguard, involved with Hit Detection LLC. Now, this is kind of an interesting one, because this is a game that was successful despite that, but still letting people know that it's there. Involved with Sweet Baby Inc. for Life is Strange. I don't think you even needed to let people know that there was a DEI company working on that game, but still, it is what it is. But you get the idea. Now, the reason why I think it's kind of good what's going on with Rocksteady right now is because I don't think it's necessarily bad in and of itself if a company is working with something like Sweet Baby Inc. I do think it is a symptom of a greater problem, though. And what I mean by that is it's a studio because they understand what Sweet Baby Inc. and other similar consulting companies are about. They understand that their job is to try to insert more DEI in it. The problem is when you have a game studio where they actually want to insert more DEI into it, because it's a symptom of the greater problem in that they're not necessarily doing the best thing for the job at hand. They're not necessarily making decisions because is this right for the game or anything like that. They're making decisions because they want to push an agenda. And that's basically a recipe for disaster, because not only does it happen in the game itself, but it's usually when you're hiring people to do that sort of thing specifically for your game, like an outside consultant like this, then it stands to reason that that's kind of the hiring practices at the company. So when you'll get something like Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League being such a huge failure for them, some people will say it's like, oh, it's not a failure because of the DEI elements within the game. It's a failure because of poor mission design, poor writing, bad graphics. You get the idea, just kind of regular game stuff that is bad with it. And I think, yes, because the company isn't putting quality over everything else, they're putting their messaging over everything else. And then once that happens, you're going to hire people who aren't necessarily the best for the job. They're just the best people who check the right boxes. And I think that's kind of what Rocksteady Studios did when it came to Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. They hired a bunch of people because they're activists and they were pushing the right messaging. They were checking the right boxes. And as a result, they produced a bad game. Sweet Baby Inc. being involved with it really wasn't the thing that made it bad. It was bad because the people who are working at the company aren't good for the job. maybe these layoffs that they're having right now is them realizing their mistake and getting rid of basically those check boxes that they hired. And in the future, they're going to hire people who are competent at their job instead of hiring people just because they're the right demographic. I don't know if that's the case, but I think if they were a smart company, they would be doing that sort of thing, getting rid of basically cutting the fat and trying to trim up again, regroup, and then make a new game with better people involved with it. Or they can double and triple down on what they're doing and eventually go under. We'll have to wait and see what's going on right now. But this news of them actually laying off people, I think, is good for the industry because it does show, and we've seen this last year, that games that are pushing a lot of this agenda over everything else are ultimately failing. And I think some companies are starting to pick up on this and change course. Other ones are a little bit slower to that, and some of them are just going to die on the hill because they're true believers. And if that's the case, then fine, let them go under as long as there's going to be some good content out there, which I think there is going to be in the future, but it'll just take some time. But let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. And also, if you haven't already, make sure you click that subscribe button if you want to stay up to date with the latest entertainment news. And don't forget to click that like button and share this video out there because it really helps out with the channel. Thank you.